Bet yous all thought I ran away from big bad Malazan and tapped out. Well, think again. Proved you wrong. I finished Midnight Tides. Alright everybody, welcome back to StoryTube. You know the drill at this point. This is book 5 of the Malazan Book of the Fallen, my 5th review. I'm halfway through the series. You know the drill. These videos I usually do the non-spoiler, brief thoughts. What did I think? For all those freaks that watch a review of book 5 in a 10-book series without having read a single page. Maybe you're just curious how I'm getting on halfway through the series. If you think this series is worth your time, how is this new reader doing halfway through the series that everybody says is so difficult to read? I am knee deep in Malazan now. I am balls deep in Malazan. I am so deep into Curald Ghislaine and Curald Emerlan and Starval Demelaine and whatever the fuck the Warrens are called. Sometimes I grasp the Warrens and sometimes they grasp me. But the one thing I still struggle to grasp are all the fucking names. Starval Demelaine, Curald Ghislaine, Stephen, fuck. Curald Emerlan is the one causing all the ruckus in this one, isn't it? Think. Isn't that the one? It's like the fractured one. It's like, it's causing all the problems. Do I know? Do I know? Do I actually know? Maybe I don't know. Anyway, I'm going to do non-spoiler TLDR, what I thought of the book first, and then I'll delve right into the meat and potatoes of Midnight Tides. I finished Midnight Tides. Been a while, took me a long time to read, not a fault of the book at all. My life's been pretty chaotic the last 2 months, but you don't need to hear all about that. Let's talk about Midnight Tides. Halfway through the series, halfway through the Malazan Book of the Fallen, probably the biggest, most daunting series out there in the fantasy genre, apart from maybe like The Wheel of Time, just for sheer length. I'm halfway through. What did I think of Midnight Tides? Am I still digging Malazan? Non-spoiler thoughts. Is this good? Yes. Is this great? Yes. Is this my favourite Malazan book so far? I'm not sure yet. Possibly. I don't know. Memories of Ice was pretty amazing. It's got all that emotional payoff. It's got the highs of the epicness. Is this the best Malazan book so far, objectively? Quite possibly. This book, to give you the quick pitch, is if Steven Erikson decided to write a complete fantasy standalone, distilling all of the good things about his writing into a very tight narrative with a more contained cast of characters and themes that are sharply focused upon through all of the characters. Midnight Tides is that book. It's thrilling, it's tight, it's long, but it's tight. Midnight Tides is essentially about 2 races and 2 cities, or 2 countries, I think. So the city of Letharas, which is full of humans, an imperialist capitalist human society. I basically think of it as the British Empire, maybe the British Empire at its height, or the United States of America. Take your pick. Basically versus the Tisti Adur, another Tisti race, another of the old races in the Malazan world, are kind of button heads. They want to conquer each other. They want to maybe subjugate the other. There's a lot about subjugation and slavery and indentured servitude in Midnight Tides. Major theme in this book. Major theme is also just imperial capitalism. I think this book is also Steven Erikson at his most overt in terms of taking a side politically. I think he's certainly more condemning of late capitalism in this book and the notions of killing humanity and greed and betrayal of those closest to you in the name of power. I think Midnight Tides is about all of that stuff, but also I think this is his most Shakespearean so far. Stephen Erikson loves writing tragedies, and I think he's been teetering very close to an ultimate, satisfying, big dessert of Shakespearean tragedy throughout all the books so far. Deadhouse Gates came pretty close to hitting that sort of perfect Shakespearean tragedy for me, but there was something in that book that didn't necessarily tap into my emotion, my inner dread and feeling of despair at the end of the book with that tragedy and the sort of inevitability of it all. Midnight Tides, I feel he finally accomplishes this by pitting two sets of brothers. So this is a family drama as well, in a big, high, epic fantasy world full of magic and retrieving magic swords and reincarnation and all this cool shit, all centered around a family drama and ideas about betrayal and greed and money and power and subjugation and slavery and conquest. So he pits two sets of brothers against each other. A set of brothers from the city of Letharas, basically the British Empire, and a set of brothers from the Tisti Ador. Mild, I guess, information spoilers from previous books. At the end of House of Chains, Trull Sengar, the Tisti Ador that we meet in that book, sits down to tell his story at a campfire. That is essentially the story that we're getting in Midnight Tides, although we do get some extra sort of perspective in the book. And we also get the perspective from the other brothers from Letharas, the Bedic brothers. So there's the Bedic brothers and there's the Sengar brothers. You might be able to tell by my accent that I'm not necessarily predisposed to the British Empire. But I really loved the Bedic brothers from Letharas in this book, and I think I warmed mostly to them. For various reasons, I think they kind of came across as the most interesting to me, the most complex, the most emotionally rich. And then the Sengar brothers, I think they're all great as well, but I found them a little less interesting than the Bedic brothers for some reason. Anyway, I absolutely love this book. The middle, again, I kind of struggled with, but I don't think that's a fault of the book at all. I think this is actually the tightest Malazan book so far. There was just a lot of shit going on in my life. You may have seen on the channel, I lost my job. I was unemployed for about a month and a half. I got a new job. Unfortunately, my grandfather passed away. I don't want to get all too personal, but my mind's been all over the place. But I will say that even though some bits in the middle I struggled with, I wasn't in the headspace, this book became a bit of a comfort to me. No spoilers or anything like that, but I had also read The Grapes of Wrath earlier in the year, and I've been having all of these thoughts about greed and what is it people stand for in working life and and big corporations and the conversations you have with regular people in work who sometimes I feel are they brainwashed by a sort of grander cultural approach to life or approach to gaining wealth, and do they see it as minor bits of power, or all this kind of sort of philosophical musings about life that we all kind of go through. And this book tapped into a lot of those things, and I didn't expect to be comparing a Malazan book to The Grapes of Wrath by John Steinbeck, but they're quite similar in their outlook, and I really appreciated it, so it kind of also became a bit of a comfort in some of those aspects to me. So that's just a bit of a bit of personal attachment to the book then as well. And I kind of had that also with Memories of Ice. It was sort of the beginning of that process that I was going through with my job and stuff, and there was a lot of discussions in Memories of Ice about one's approach to life and one's sense of humor and How seriously do we take things, and all that kind of stuff that really resonates with me as a person. So that kind of stuff is why we read, realistically. It taps into the depths of you as a person, your persona, your values. And I think that's what Erikson does best when he's juggling all of these cool fantasy things and major concepts and intricate plots, is that he gives a weight to those cool aspects by filling them with a richness and a depth that I don't often find in other fantasy books. I don't mean to disparage fantasy as a genre, that's not what I'm saying at all. I just mean that Erikson adds a depth and a richness to these books that I seldom find. And I love it. So, non-spoiler section, it's a great book. I urge you to go off and start this series or read Midnight Tides if you've not read it yet. And come back to the latter half of this video when you've read it. So like I said, the three main themes that I kind of got out of Midnight Tides were, I guess, this look at capitalism, the whole idea of greed and betrayal. But then that theme of betrayal ties heavily into a theme of brotherhood that I think is really the heart of Midnight Tides. Kind of similar to how parenthood or motherhood were the heart of Memories of Ice. Here it's brotherhood. And I don't mean brotherhood in terms of like, oh, belonging to a cause larger than yourself. No, actual siblings, like brothers. So obviously the two main sets of characters, the Sengar brothers and the Bedik brothers, there's this big swirling pot of family drama and dynamics and parent expectations on the brothers, and the sort of, there's the older brother, there's the middle one, there's the youngest one, there's the sort of self-assured warrior type, there's the young, immature, naive, and you can kind of see this in both sides, both sets of brothers. There's the jaded one. And just me personally, I attached more emotionally to the Bedik brothers. And I gotta say that Tehal is now up there with Krupp in the running for my favourite character in Malazan so far. And I don't want to forget my boy Bug. So this is the spoiler section. We can spoil shit here. Bug being an elder god, I guess, or something of that nature, male. The name didn't mean a huge amount to me when it was actually revealed. There's a lot of names dropped in these books, but I figured there was something going on with Bug. But apart from all that cool stuff, with like, ooh, he's this character and blah blah blah, he grounds all of this stuff and he anchors this stuff with really great relationships and great characters at the center and great stories around them, so that it adds a weight and an importance to all of that cool shit. And like, ooh, he's an elder god, and ooh, all of the Sengar brothers are going out to find a magic sword, and Rulad comes back to life, and blah blah blah. But that stuff is you only care about it because of the stories that he builds around this cool fantasy magic shit. And Midnight Tides is an absolute masterclass in all of that. And like I said in the beginning, it's his most Shakespearean. This is like Hamlet. There is something rotten in the state of Letharas, and Tehal Bedik is going to exploit the fuck out of it. There is so much about family dynamics and betrayal of those closest to you, especially, you know, when we want to talk about the end scene, the throne room scene. It's so Shakespearean. It's like Julius Caesar. Rulad is just like a tout brute, except for instead of being surprised that people are stabbing him, he's actually begging people to stab him. Because Erikson's funny like that. He's like a tout troll, and fear runs away. It's just so dramatic and thespian that I loved it. And if you've watched our channel at all, I kind of talk about, I sort of have I guess a little background in theatre. And I like Shakespeare. I'm not just saying it to sound smart. I really like Shakespeare. And I like that theatricality and that dramatic tension that is built from family drama. Shakespeare was so good at that. And just this betrayal, and look at grand epic stories like with Titus Andronicus, who basically presents the queen of the Goths to, is it Saturnina? The emperor, the Roman emperor. He presents this queen as a slave to the emperor, and there's all this betrayal going on. This is basically Fear having to present his betrothed, is it Mayan, to Rulad, his younger, naive, cocky little fucker of a brother, who's come back to life and declared himself emperor of the Tistiador. And then we have this dramatic showdown at the end of the book. That's just all very Shakespearean, and Fear, aptly named, very on the nose, very overtly theatrical, shows his kind of fear at the end, his cowardice. He runs away. Trull is torn between all of these ideas of duty, responsibility to the family. What does he do? Responsibility to the Tistiador. Does he actually want to be conquering Letharas? What does he think of this whole thing? What does he think of his now brother Rulad? Is it Rulad's fault? He's naive and stupid and a bit of a dick, kind of from the get-go. But is it because he's being possessed? All of these ideas are just so theatrical, and I think it's finally... Erikson finally hitting the perfect note for me with that idea of Shakespearean tragedy, anchoring it in family drama. It's brilliant. It's absolutely brilliant. And like I mentioned at the beginning as well, it's sort of his most overt positioning in terms of like a political ideology. I think he is actually criticizing capitalism here pretty strongly. But I also like that he's not just saying this is just evil, this is the most evil political ideology like it's kind of fashionable to do now. He's just saying here's all the bad shit that people do by taking this idea and adding human greed and the ability to lie and the ability to step on others to gain what people want. Selfishness. And Rulad kind of encapsulates this. I think what makes Tehal so interesting is that he makes you think that Tehal is that character, is that selfish one. He's playing the game to bring about the downfall. I'm still not 100% sure what Tehal's plan actually was. Was it to destabilize Letharas and take everything for himself? Or was it to destabilize the economy in Letharas and just bring about change? I'm kind of leaning towards that, especially with some conversations he has with Bug at the end. But all of these characters kind of do represent that idea, that greed, that selfishness in people, and look at it in different ways, through different lenses, and it's absolutely brilliant. But also, like all the other books, it's really fucking cool to read. When Hanan Mosag sends out all the lads, the Sengar boys, to go root out the magic sword trapped in the ice, fuck yes, it's great stuff. And then all of this imagery when Rulad dies and Udinas, who again another great character, Udinas the slave, the indentured slave, great idea for a character, wraps Rulad in gold coins. His entire body, he's got gold coins stuck to him, and this just symbolic richness of in every scene that he's fighting, another gold coin, just he drops another gold coin. You can hear the clinks of the gold coins kind of tearing themselves off his skin, and they take bits off him. It's great. It's really, really good. This is really good stuff. This writing is really good. It's meticulous. It's the kind of metaphor and symbolism that maybe Erickson gets into such a role with it that a lot of it might be unintentional, but it's just a writer firing on all cylinders so that when he has a clear enough idea, you can start to see it everywhere, even if he's not intentionally portraying it that way. It's really cool. I'm excited about it. It's a good book. I also really liked the introduction of the Crimson Guard in this book. Really cool shit. Iron Bar's such a fascinating character. I want to learn more about them. It makes me kind of want to read Esselmont's books whenever I get there. And even just one scene in particular with Iron Bar's when he's fighting Rulad and he like palms him and breaks his neck. Such a badass scene. I never liked Rulad, even from the beginning. I was like, this guy's a dick. And I know it's not all his fault towards the end, but he's a dick. I love that with the Crimson Guard and with Seren Padak meeting Corlo, that we finally learn more of the intricacies about the Warrens and all this kind of stuff. It's very, very cool. My only criticism with Seren Padak's story, not necessarily criticism, it's not like he does it terribly. It's just, it's a little repetitive now that many of the female characters have experienced rape, and it's just sort of used as a Kickstarter for them going on a different journey. And with Seren Padak, I don't actually think it needed to happen. I don't think it added anything to her arc as a character. I think her relationship with Hull Benedict and the sort of betrayal that she feels by him at the end, I think that is enough for her character to then go off and join the Crimson Guard and learn about the Warrens and start learning magic and tapping into those abilities that she has. I just found it a little tired. I kind of rolled my eyes a little bit. Okay, fine. And then the Iron Bars is going to come and rescue her, and then she's going to think about how, revenge and how violent does she get now, and how violent is Iron Bars, and should she have let him torture these people or whatever. I just found that didn't add too much. Now maybe that's something that will pay off down the line or we'll come back to, but I feel like we've been over this with a couple of characters so far. So it's not a huge criticism, it's just something small that has now come up a couple of times. Just in a series that presents us with a world where sexism does not exist at all, he's been a little free with his use of violence towards women in a sexual nature. It's not something that really bothers me, it's just, it felt a little repetitive, a little rehashed in Midnight Tides. But I really liked her as a character, and I'm interested to see her in the future, especially with the Crimson Guard, and especially learning more about the Warrens and the fragments of, is it Curald, Emerlan? Again, some of the names, they go over my head, but I get the general gist. It's cool. Magic shit. But the main thing that I loved about this book, and it pulled me back in towards the end, even when I was struggling a bit with the middle, and it took me a while to read the book. I was intentionally reading it slowly, and then of course life got in the way and I was reading it even more slowly. But the thing that really pulled me in again emotionally at the end was Tehal and Bug, man. They are just so great. I think they may have usurped Mappo and Akarium and Anomander, Rake and Whiskey Jack as my favourite duo in all of these books so far. I just think there's an emotion, there is an emotional maturity to how they speak to each other. There's a fun, there's a sense of cheeky banter where they can enjoy life, but there's a hidden intelligence there, and they don't have to fucking boast about it. They don't live to other people's conventions. Tehal sleeps on a fucking mattress on his roof. And he's probably the smartest person in Letheras. Bug is a manservant who doesn't get paid, and he makes the shittest soup in the world, and yet he's an elder god. And they just seem to want to do good. And their kind of charming relationship with Kettle and how they kind of want to protect this kid. And their fun relationship with Shirk Elal, who's a cool character, Ublala Pung, hung like Pung, and the three sort of thief ladies. That whole sort of subplot was very entertaining to read, and Tehol and Bugs back and forth, all their dialogue was just ridiculously entertaining to read. And again, that balance of tone that Erickson always has in these books is just great. And there's a heart at the centre of it, kind of like with Krupp, that I would have real difficulty understanding why people wouldn't like these characters. They're intelligent, they're compassionate, they know how to have fun, they know how to make you laugh, they like to laugh. And there's just so much heart there. And there's like conversations then with Tehol and Bug towards the end where I feel like they sum up the whole idea of the book, the whole message of the book. And he's kind of like, why didn't you kill all of them? Halt this invasion in its tracks. I have my reasons. To see Lether conquered? Don't you like us? Lether, not much. You take your natural vices and call them virtues, of which greed is the most despicable. That and betrayal of commonality. After all, whoever decided that competition is always, and without exception, a healthy attribute? Why that particular path to self-esteem? Your heel on the hand of the one below. This is worth something? Let me tell you, it's worth nothing. Nothing lasting. Every monument that exists beyond the moment, no matter which king, emperor, or warrior lays claim to it, is actually a testament to the common, to cooperation, to the plural, rather than the singular. Ah, Tehol interjected, managing to raise a finger to mark his objection. Without a king, general, or whomever, without a leader, no monument gets built. Only because you mortals know only two possibilities, to follow or to lead, nothing else. Hold on, I've seen consortiums and cooperatives at work, Bug. They're nightmares. Aye, breeding grounds for all those virtues, such as greed, envy, betrayal, and so on. In other words, each within the group seeks to impose a structure of followers and leaders. Dispense with a formal hierarchy, and you have a contest of personalities. So what is the solution? Would you be greatly disappointed to hear that you're not it? Who? Me? Your species. Don't feel bad. None have been as of yet. Still, who knows what the future will bring? Oh, that's easy for you to say. Actually, no, it isn't. Look, I've seen all this again and again over countless generations. To put it simply, it's a mess. A tangled, irreparable mess. Some god you are. You are a god, aren't you? The manservant shrugged. Make no assumptions about anything, ever. Stay mindful, my friend, and suspicious. Suspicious, but not frightened by complexity. And I've some advice for you since we're doling it out here. And that is, live to your potential. Bug opened his mouth for a retort, then shut it again and narrowed his gaze. Tehol gave him an innocent smile. It was momentary, as more of the memories of this day stirred awake. Anyway, I love these two together. I'm not going to flick through and find the page where we learn that Bug didn't Men in Black his memories away, Tehol's memories away. Also, I nearly shat myself when I thought that Tehol was going to die. Which just showed me just how much Erickson made me care about these characters and made me think about why I care about them and why I latch on to them and what is it about them philosophically, psychologically, emotionally that made me love them, you know? And I just think it's summed up by some of the conversations they have there at the end and again, the compassion that they show for each other and the love they show for each other and the sense of fucking humour that they show each other and they love each other through that. How they talk to each other is how I talk to my best mates. You're always, as we say in Ireland, slagging each other off. You're busting each other's balls or whatever it is you say in America. That this is what you do with your best friend. This is a universal thing and there's love behind it. And it just grounds this these huge, epic, magical concepts into something tangible that we, mere mortals, can latch on to, and then also enjoy the grand epicness around it. Now, I'm sure there's a ton of stuff in this book that I haven't mentioned. I don't want this video to be too long, but that's my, I guess, general view of Midnight Tides. Is it better than Memories of Ice? Possibly it is. It's certainly tighter. It's the tightest book so far. It's the one that is the most contained, has the most contained set of characters. It's the most focused. If your criticism of Erikson thus far is that he's too scattered, too chaotic, too all over the place, this is really focused on a tight core group of characters and a tight core plot that everybody is sort of swirling around, and then they crash together at the end. Again, a common device in his books. Like I said in the video I made about Malazan being different, not difficult, that is a common technique or device that he deploys in his writing, and he distills it to its perfection here, in my opinion. Now, I have the second half of the series to get to, so if you like this video and you want to see me get to all the rest of them, give this video a like, subscribe, blah blah blah, do all that stuff that YouTubers tell you to do. But most importantly to me, comment down below, what do you think of Midnight Tides? What do you think of what I think about Midnight Tides? Talk to me about Midnight Tides. Tease me about what's coming later. And I'll see you guys soon. I don't know how long it will take me to get to Bone Hunters, or how long it will take me to read Bone Hunters, or what life is going to look like then. But I'm excited to have Malazan by my side. See you later.